That night, 2 days before my daughter's wedding, I saw my wife sneaking into the house with my future son-in-law. They thought I'd never find out, but the footage from the camera hit me like a lightning strike. I didn't fully understand what was happening, only that everything was about to fall apart. If you want to hear the whole truth, make sure to subscribe and tell me where you're listening. Because this story started the moment I got that anonymous message, leading me to the hard drive in the garage. When I got that anonymous message telling me to check the hard drive in the garage, I thought someone was messing with me. But that uneasy feeling, it wrapped around me like cold fog. The camera footage I'd just seen my wife and my future son-in-law slipping into the house at midnight was already impossible to explain. And now, there was this cryptic message. I knew I didn't have the luxury of looking away anymore. I went down to the garage, quiet, slow, the kind of silence that feels heavy. The yellow light above made the whole room look like a storage box of forgotten memories. The old hard drive was buried in a crate of electronics I hadn't touched in who knows how many years. When I plugged it into my laptop, my heart thumped so hard, it felt like my own body was trying to warn me about something my mind refused to admit. The drive blinked alive, and I saw folders labeled with strange abbreviations, almost like codes. They weren't mine. I opened the first one and hit a stack of voice recordings stamped on the nights Erica told me she had to work overtime. Her voice clear, steady, talking to someone, but the audio wasn't strong enough to catch everything. Only one line cut through the noise, and cut right through me. Just don't let Michael suspect anything. After the wedding, things will be easier to manage. I leaned back, tried to breathe, tried to tell myself I misunderstood. Maybe it was just something about an event client. Erica's work could be chaotic. Maybe it had nothing to do with Adam at all, but the instinct of a man who's lived 20 years beside his wife. That instinct was screaming that something was off. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. I didn't want to destroy my daughter's happiness over scraps of shadow. But every second that camera footage replayed itself in my head, Erica glancing around before opening the door, Adam walking in like he'd done it 100 times. Smooth, casual, no hesitation. I opened the second folder, notes from meetings, screenshots of calendars, then one single text file that made my whole body go cold. A backup of messages, hundreds of lines long. I scrolled and saw the initials AP Adam Pierce so many times I couldn't lie to myself anymore. Suggestive lines, late-night meetings at the studio, messages about talking when it's quiet. Every line another link in a chain pulling me toward a truth my heart didn't want to face. I got up, paced around the garage. I'm not the kind of man who explodes. I believe in clarity, in reason. But the more I tried to calm down, the more I felt a storm building inside my chest. I sat back down, forced myself to look at everything slowly, carefully. Maybe I'd find some harmless explanation. Maybe I'd feel foolish come morning. But when I opened the one video file on that drive, every hope I had collapsed. It was filmed in Erica's office, her backup camera, the one she'd once asked me to fix, the one I never saw working. In the video, she was sitting close to Adam. Too close. Not the kind of closeness you need for work. And then Adam said a line that froze the blood in my veins. Sophie won't know. We just need to keep everything quiet until after the wedding. Erica didn't pull away. She didn't argue. She didn't leave. She just lowered her head. That was the moment. I felt my soul drop straight into a bottomless pit. I shut the laptop. Everything went dark. My back sank into the chair like I'd aged 10 more years in a handful of minutes. I didn't know how to react. I'm not perfect, but I've always given my family everything I had. 30 years of work, just so my girl could have the wedding she dreamed of. So my wife never had to worry about anything. And in the most important moment of all, betrayal was staring straight at me. I called Daniel my closest friend, the only man who understands me better than I do. When he heard my voice, he went silent, then asked, You sure about what you saw? I said. Not just sure. No. Daniel sighed. Don't do anything tonight. Don't let Sophie get hurt before we understand the whole picture. Let me see everything tomorrow morning. Those words steadied me. Even in the pain, I knew one thing: I wouldn't drag my daughter into this until I uncovered the full truth. And that's when I made the first decision in a battle I never imagined I'd have to fight. I will investigate. Quietly. Step by step. Starting tonight. The next morning, I still couldn't sleep. Every frame of that video, every message on that hard drive, every word out of Adam's mouth, kept slapping me over and over in my head. And I knew, if I wanted to act at the right moment, I needed something solid, real evidence, not just instinct, not just a husband's gut. I opened my laptop, went through everything again, slower this time, careful, no emotion, just truth. The first file was the message backup, pages and pages of it. Adam and Erica talking in careful coded words, talking about secret meetings, making sure their tracks were clean. They wrote things like, "Don't let Michael find out. Everything has to be perfect. We need to keep things quiet until after the wedding. Sophie can't know anything." Each line cut me open a little more. This wasn't just betrayal of the heart. They were planning to manipulate my daughter's life and the money I'd set aside for her. Adam mentioned the $2.4 million I saved for Sophie. Talked about using the wedding to secure control of the studio project later. It was clear. This wasn't a moment of weakness. It was a plan, a strategy. I picked up the phone and called Daniel. My voice shook, but I kept it steady enough. "Daniel, I think they're hiding something bigger than whatever affair they're having. They want control over Sophie and over what I'm leaving her." Daniel stayed silent for a moment. Then he said, "Stay calm. I'm coming over. We need to go through the evidence piece by piece. And no one knows, especially Sophie." When he arrived, I took him straight to the garage, opened the laptop, let him see everything. He nodded slowly, jaw tight. Then he said, "Michael, I've never seen anything this calculated. This isn't just cheating. They're planning to reshape your daughter's whole life." Anger and fear twisted together in my chest. If Sophie walked into that wedding without knowing, the damage would be irreversible. I couldn't let that happen. But how to protect her without breaking her? I didn't have the answer yet. We opened the video again. This time I watched every detail: eyes, posture, timing. I saw Adam telling Erica to stay calm, that they had to finish everything before the wedding. Erica didn't resist, didn't question, just bowed her head and nodded, the cold strategy in their voices. It chilled me to the bone. I turned to Daniel, my voice trembling but firm. "We need to prepare. I won't let my daughter get destroyed, and I can't risk losing this evidence. We back everything up. Print it. Secure it." Daniel agreed. We spent hours copying all data to a protected cloud, double passwords, printing out the important messages so we could access them fast. He said every move has to be calculated. Every move. No impulsive decisions. This is when you stay sharp, Michael. When we were done, I looked around the garage, at the family photos Erica hung on the walls, at the keepsakes I thought would anchor good memories for Sophie, and all I felt was betrayal spreading through the room. They had planned everything, step by step, while I trusted them blindly, but not anymore. I started writing down every detail every time Erica and Adam met, every strange message, every mention of money, the studio, the wedding, even little things I'd ignored before. Every detail was another link in a chain of betrayal. And then, a thought hit me. If I stayed silent, they'd win. But if I moved at the right moment, I could protect Sophie without destroying her. I looked at Daniel and said, "We need a plan, a real plan. Step by step, they've been clever. But we're going to be smarter." Daniel nodded. "That's right. but keep everything absolutely silent. This evidence is powerful and dangerous if exposed too soon. I let out a long breath, and for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt a bit of control returning to me. The truth was out. I understood the whole picture. Now I needed to turn that truth into leverage, to protect my daughter and set things right. I checked the clock. Only 2 days left before the wedding, and every second mattered. I knew who betrayed me, how they did it, and now I needed to move with precision. This was the first step in a quiet, deliberate chain of actions I would take before the big day. And from that moment on, I knew the real battle had begun, and there was no turning back. That night, while the whole city thought Chicago was finally quiet, I couldn't close my eyes. In that empty house, the yellow light spilling through the windows, the shadows of the trees crawling across the walls, it all felt like something watching me. I paced back and forth, phone in one hand, laptop in the other, replaying every detail I'd collected, every message, every video clip, every word out of Adam and Erica's mouths. Another link in a long chain of betrayal I had to break apart piece by piece. I knew I couldn't let my daughter walk into that wedding blind, but I also knew I couldn't shatter Sophie's mind. The girl trusted both of them. She believed the world was still gentle. I had to build a plan so precise that the truth would hit at the exact right moment, fair, undeniable, and impossible for either of them to twist. So I broke the night into steps. First, I printed everything. Messages, emails, screenshots, images from the hard drive. Every sheet a piece of evidence no one could talk their way out of. I pinned them all to a big board marked timelines, underlined details. From their first secret meeting, all the way to last night. I called it the truth map, my strongest weapon for what was coming, or what. When that was done, I sat at the table and started drafting the script for tomorrow's wedding. I knew I couldn't blow everything open the second Sophie walked in. She's too naive to understand how deep this scheme runs. No. I needed to spread the evidence carefully, step by step, just enough for Adam and Erica to feel the heat, to know someone was watching, someone who wasn't going to let them walk away clean. I considered using things they'd never suspect: invitation cards, table placeholders, even guests' phones to release the evidence without causing chaos too early. Every detail, every minute, I calculated, because one mistake, just one, and the whole plan could collapse, and the damage would be worse than the lie itself. Then I stopped, looked around the room, realized my anger was turning into something sharper, something controlled. I'd always been a protective father, a strict one. But tonight, I felt a colder resolve, a precision I hadn't felt in years. Their betrayal didn't just hurt me, it sharpened me. Near midnight, I checked everything again: laptop, hard drive, printed sheets, note cards. I placed them where I could grab them quickly, but where no one else would notice. Daniel agreed to stay in part of the house that night in case something went wrong. If anything spiraled out of control, he'd be there. And then I thought about Sophie. She still believed tomorrow would be the happiest day of her life. A perfect day. That thought broke something inside me. But the more I thought about it, the more I understood the truth needed protection, but the delivery had to be gentle. I rehearsed the confrontation in my mind, when to reveal it, who needed to be present, how Adam and Erica might react, how I'd stay calm enough to keep Sophie from falling apart. Then a small thought flickered in my mind. Adam believed everything would go smoothly. Erica believed she could read me, manipulate me. What they never counted on was a father who knew everything, staying silent, building a plan with surgical precision. That thought made me smile, cold, controlled. Their confidence would become the blade I'd turn against them. I kept writing down every possible move, slipping evidence into guest cards, keeping Sophie away until the right moment, lining up witnesses who would see the truth unfold, step by step. I realized I wasn't just preparing a reveal. I was crafting a whole stage where their betrayal would show itself, and I'd still hold all the power. Before trying to sleep, I stood and looked at the truth map one more time. Sheets, scribbled notes, screenshots. A web they could never escape. Tomorrow would test not just my courage, but my mind, my discipline. And for the first time since all this pain began, I felt control returning to me. I felt ready for the biggest shock of my life. With my heart still pounding, I switched off the lights. I didn't know if I'd sleep, but I knew one thing for certain. Tomorrow morning, every secret would explode into the light, and every person who betrayed me would face consequences they never imagined. The next morning, when sunlight slipped through the living room window, I could feel my heartbeat pounding hard in my chest. Even the birds outside sounded filtered through some kind of invisible tension. I put on my suit, combed my hair, every move steady, calculated. But inside, a cold war was raging. Everything I planned last night had to unfold perfectly. Not a single detail could go wrong. Sophie still didn't know anything. She was laughing with her bridesmaids in her room. I watched her from the hallway, my heart tight with pain and anger. She trusted Adam and Erica completely, believed they loved her, protected her. That betrayal burned through me, but I also knew if I exposed everything too early, it would shatter her. I needed the truth to surface at the right moment, in a way that gave her clarity, not despair. I called Daniel over. The two of us went through the truth map again, every evidence card, every step of the script. I whispered, "They think they're safe. They have no idea what a father can see, or how quietly he can plan." Daniel nodded, his eyes sharp. "Remember this, Michael. We can't let emotions take over. We follow the plan. Total control." When guests started arriving, I kept my face calm. Adam walked in with that confident smile, looking like a man with nothing to fear. Erica followed right behind, bright and cheerful, her hand resting lightly on his arm. Neither of them had the slightest clue that every move they'd made was about to explode in front of everyone. I began handing out the QR cards, evidence disguised as sweet wedding keepsakes, only to a few trusted guests at first, people who would stay composed and react at the right moment. They scanned the cards, and I saw it the shift. Curiosity, then shock. Adam started glancing around. That tightness appeared around his jaw. Erica sensed something too, but she didn't understand what it was yet. I stayed still, standing beside Sophie, watching her smile like nothing in the world was wrong. Inside, half of me wanted to scream. The other half kept repeating, "Stay the course." When the ceremony began, the music swelled. Everyone moved into place. Then Sophie stepped out in her pure white dress, glowing like morning light. I told myself, let her keep this moment. Let her remember the beauty before the truth hits. At the ring exchange, I gently took the microphone from the minister. My voice steady, low, icy. "Before we continue, I have something to say." Silence. Sophie turned to me, worry flickering in her eyes. Adam and Erica finally sensed the weight in my tone. I handed out more QR cards to the nearest guests. They scanned, and the wave began. Within minutes, phones were buzzing, messages, photos, videos, all spreading like a flood through the room. Whispers sharpened into gasps. Guests turned their screens to each other, faces going pale. Erica's face drained of color. Adam stuttered, trying to form a lie he didn't have time to build. I kept my voice calm, almost too calm. "Adam, Erica, I know everything, every detail, every plan. And now, everyone else is seeing it too." Chaos broke loose, but I stayed quiet, guiding Sophie away from the center of the storm. She looked up at me, eyes wide, trembling. I held her hand. "You're okay. We're okay. Just look. understand, in your own way, in your own time. All eyes turned toward Adam and Erica. They stood there like two birds caught in a snare, faces red, trapped by their own choices. And in that moment, a cold satisfaction washed over me. Not because they were suffering, but because justice had finally found its place. The guests' reactions mattered just as much. People who once admired Adam and Erica now stared at them with disbelief, even disgust. The whispers grew, judgment settling in the air like dust. I looked at Sophie again. She was shaking, but she still trusted me. And I knew, painful as this was, I had saved her from something far worse, a marriage built on lies, a life shaped by betrayal. As I stepped back toward the last row of seats, letting Daniel steady her, I realized something. The hardest blow had already landed. And now, the power was mine. Every one of their careful, manipulative schemes had collapsed, and they would face the consequences of the path they chose. After the revelation at the wedding, the air in the reception hall and the church was still thick with whispers and quiet sobs. Adam and Erica stood there, stunned, unsure how to salvage their pride. I stayed calm, composed, but my heart was racing. I knew the most important part was done. Sophie was safe, and the truth had been revealed fairly. I gently guided my daughter away from the crowd. She was still trembling, but her eyes were full of trust toward me. I held her hand and whispered, "It's over. We're okay. You don't have to endure any more lies." She exhaled as if releasing a weight she never knew she carried and leaned against my shoulder. I felt a relief I had never experienced before. The truth, bitter as it was, had freed us both. Yet I knew my task wasn't finished. It was time to set everything on a new solid path. I contacted my lawyer right away. Catherine had all the legal documents ready to handle the financial and legal consequences for Adam and Erica. Because of careful preparation, I was able to protect both Sophie's and my own interests. Wedding deposits, reception costs, personal assets Adam had thought he could manipulate. Everything was handled quickly, efficiently, leaving no room for them to cause further trouble. The story quickly spread online, but I didn't get caught up in the attention. I knew true power wasn't about who knew. It was about having controlled the situation and safeguarded my daughter. Adam was suspended from his company. Erica was fired immediately for harming the company's reputation. People who once trusted them now looked at them differently. I knew justice had been served. The next day, Sophie and I sat down for a long talk. She asked questions, and I explained just enough for her to understand without causing more pain. I saw her grow stronger through the shock, and I realized the lesson in vigilance and reading people would serve her well in the future. Life gradually returned to normal. I focused on caring for Sophie, driving her to school, attending parent meetings, and planning small trips to soothe her mind. I returned to work, but with a changed perspective. I understood that painful experiences can become motivation for growth and change. As for Adam and Erica, they faced the reality of their choices. Without a safety net or lies to hide behind, they had to bear the consequences. I heard through various sources that Adam lost nearly all his clients and had to take a position at a smaller firm, while Erica moved back with her family in the suburbs, far from the world she once thought she controlled. Their careers and reputations suffered greatly, and I felt that justice sometimes finds its own way. 3 months later, Sophie and I took a short trip to Lake Michigan. Sitting together on a bench, watching the sunlight glitter on the water, I realized the lesson I had learned: the truth has a liberating power, and a father's love for his child is eternal, unbreakable. I also began looking for new opportunities, both in work and in life. A real estate project in Austin, Texas opened a new chapter, allowing me to rebuild my career, free from the shadows of the past. I recognized that this shock wasn't the end, it was the turning point toward a stronger, transparent, and self-directed life. Finally, as I watched Sophie laugh in the afternoon sun, I knew that all the pain, betrayal, and meticulous planning had been worth it. We had survived the storm together, and ahead lay a future we would write ourselves. No lies, no fear, only trust and family love. And that is how truth, justice, and a father's perseverance turned what could have been a disaster into a new beginning for my daughter and for me. Thank you for following our story to the very end. If you found it gripping, tense, and want to see more shocking family dramas, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. Every subscription and comment helps us bring you more real dramatic stories. Thank you so much for being with us.